Okay, so I want you to imagine something. You're listening to music, but it doesn't really sound like a strict song, you know?
Right, not something with a clear beat you can just tap your foot to.
Exactly. It's more like a beautiful fog rolling in. Or maybe the way light reflects on a lake, the sound itself just sort of shimmers.
That's it. That feeling right there, that's the heart of musical impressionism. It was a style that completely changed music by focusing on atmosphere and, well, color over clear-cut rules.
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to unpack today. How this whole style was born out of a rebellion, what specific tools composers used to get that hazy, dreamlike sound.
And how two French composers, Debussy and Ravel, basically broke all the rules and changed music forever.
So let's start at the beginning. This all kicks off in France, late 1800s. And it wasn't a gentle evolution, it was a real reaction, a rebellion.
A huge one. It was a direct pushback against what was dominant at the time, which was German Romanticism. So you think of composers like Wagner or Brahms.
And that music it's heavy.
It's massive. It's super serious, full of intense emotion, and these huge, dramatic stories. Just high-stakes drama all the time.
Right, kind of exhausting. So the French composers wanted to get away from that. They weren't trying to write a whole novel in their music.
No, their goal was much smaller, more immediate. They wanted to capture a fleeting moment, a quick sensation, like a blurry photograph of a single scene instead of a long, detailed story.
Which is why the name Impressionism makes so much sense, because it's borrowed from the painters, right?
Exactly. You look at a painting by Monet, and he's not trying to paint every single leaf on a tree. He's painting how the light hits the leaves. It's about the impression of the scene.
And musicians just did the same thing with sound. They used these washes of sound instead of clear melodies.
And it all happened in Paris, which was this amazing melting pot where artists and musicians were just constantly trading ideas. It was the perfect place to break rules.
Okay, so what does that wash of sound actually, sound like? How do you create that?
Well, when you're listening, the first thing you'll notice is that shimmering, delicate vibe. They actively avoided those loud, dramatic outbursts. Everything is softer, more focused on texture.
And the piano was a huge part of that, I know. But one specific part of the piano.
The sustain pedal, absolutely, the one on the right. Composers would hold it down for ages to let the notes just ring out and bleed into one another.
Like paint on a wet canvas.
That's the perfect analogy. It creates this signature blur where it's actually hard to tell where one chord ends and the next one begins.
So the music is intentionally a little out of focus. But if everything is blurred, how does it not just sound like a mess? What about the rhythm?
Wow, you could forget about a strong, driving beat. The rhythm is really flexible, very fluid. It's meant to feel more like the movement of water.
Unpredictable.
Exactly. It feels mysterious and wonderful because you can't quite pin it down. It flows, it doesn't march. But the real revolution, even more than rhythm, was in the actual notes they goes.
This is where it gets really interesting. They started ditching the basic scales we all know, major for happy, minor for sad, and started using more exotic ingredients.
And the most famous tool they used was something called the whole tone scale.
Okay, break that down for us.
Imagine a ladder. On a normal ladder, some rungs are farther apart than others.
Yeah.
That's like a normal scale. It makes you feel a pull toward one specific note, the home note.
But the whole tone scale is different.
It's a ladder where all 6 rungs are exactly the same distance apart. There's no pull, there's no home note.
So the music just floats.
Precisely. It sounds weightless, dreamlike. It was perfect for them. They also used the pentatonic scale a lot. That's a 5-note scale you hear in a lot of folk music from around the world.
And they went even further back in time, didn't they, to these ancient scales?
They did. They revived things called modes. These were used way back in the medieval period. Using them instantly gave the music this kind of mystical, ancient quality.
But the thing that really broke the rules was the chords.
Oh, this was scandalous at the time. Music schools had very strict rules about how chords were supposed to move from one to the next.
And the Impressionists just ignored that?
They blew it up. They started using chords that had been considered forbidden because they sounded a bit dissonant or clashing, and then they just moved the whole block of notes up or down the piano.
Just because it sounded cool.
Just because they thought the sound itself was interesting. Their whole philosophy was, if it sounds good, it is good. Forget the textbook. It was total freedom.
And the pioneer of that freedom, the man they call the father of the movement, was Claude Debussy.
He was the guy. He really embodied this idea of trusting your own ear over any academic rule. He famously hated strict forms.
You can hear that in what's maybe his most famous piece, Prelude to The afternoon of a Faun. A lot of people say that's where modern music really starts.
It is. It just creates this lazy, warm, hazy atmosphere from the very first note. That solo flute that opens, it just sort of wanders and weaves. You have no idea where it's going next.
He said music should sound like it's breathing.
And it does. And of course, there's Claire de Lune, Moonlight. I mean, the title says it all. He's literally painting a picture of moonlight with sound.
Then you have the other giant of the movement, Maurice Ravel.
Oh.
He's different.
A fascinating contrast. If Debussy was the free-spirited dreamer, Ravel was the meticulous architect, the perfectionist.
What was his special skill then?
He was a master orchestration. That's the art of knowing exactly which combination of instruments to use to get the perfect sound color.
Yeah.
He would spend hours polishing every single detail.
And his rhythms were different from Debussy's too. A bit more solid.
Yeah, much more precise. He was obsessed with clocks and mechanical toys, and you can hear that. Some of his music has this very clear ticking quality, which makes it feel a bit more structured.
And the best example of that is probably Bolero.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bolero is a masterpiece of orchestration. It's one single melody repeated over and over and over.
But it never gets boring.
Because each time it repeats, Ravel adds a different instrument or a new combination. It just gets louder and louder and more intense until this huge final crash. It's an incredible experiment in sound color.
So beyond these two composers, what was inspiring the entire movement? You mentioned Monet and light, so I'm guessing nature.
Nature was everything. They were obsessed with it, especially water. Think about it. Water reflects light. It's constantly moving, but in an unpredictable way.
It's the perfect musical metaphor for their style.
It really is, and you see it in the titles everywhere. The sea, reflections in the water. They were trying to capture the sounds of waves, rustling leaves, birdsong.
It creates a totally different feeling. It's not about human drama. It's about peace, tranquility. It invites you to just relax and imagine a scene.
But it wasn't just the French countryside. They started looking much, much further for inspiration.
This is the exoticism part. There was a key moment in Paris in 1889.
The World Exhibition. Debussy went, and he heard a Javanese gamelan there, an Indonesian orchestra made up of all these unique metallic percussion instruments.
And it just blew his mind.
Completely. It shattered his whole idea of what rhythm and harmony could be. After that, you start hearing all these non-Western ideas creep into their music.
Scales from Asia, rhythms from Spain.
And you suddenly hear instruments like gongs and bells in the orchestra, things that were just not part of the standard European sound before. It made the music feel ancient and futuristic at the same time.
Okay, let's circle back to the instruments for a second. We talked about the piano and the sustain pedal. They really used it to paint pictures, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. Think of Debussy's The Sunken Cathedral. He uses these super deep booming notes in the bass to make it sound like giant bells ringing from deep underwater. It's pure texture.
And in the orchestra, there was a signature duo that really defined the Impressionist sound.
The flute and the harp, for sure. They were chosen because their sound is so light and transparent, the complete opposite of the heavy brass that the Germans loved.
The flute is like the voice of nature, right? The bird call or the breeze.
Exactly. And the harp provides that magical, sparkling background. It's like the shimmering light. It just fills the space with this glittering texture. They always preferred the clarity of woodwinds over the power of brass.
And one final thing they broke was the actual structure of the music.
Yeah, for centuries, music had followed these strict blueprints, like a sonata or a symphony. You had to build it a certain way.
Like a house with the foundation, walls, and a roof in that order.
Right, and the Impressionists said, no, we're not building a house. We're going to let the music grow organically, like a river flowing or a cloud forming.
So they wrote shorter pieces, preludes, images, things that were just about capturing a single mood.
Exactly, mood over structure. And that freedom, that idea, opened the door for everything that came next.
You can really hear its influence everywhere. You can hear those complex floating harmonies in early jazz.
For sure. And modern film scores are full of it. Anytime a movie needs to create an atmosphere rather than play a catchy tune, that's Impressionism's legacy. It led directly to ambient and electronic music.
So when you want to listen to this music, what's the best way to approach it?
The best way is to just let go. Find a quiet place, maybe dim the lights, and don't try to follow it. Don't worry about tapping your foot.
Just let the sounds wash over you.
Exactly. It's an invitation to use your imagination, to find your own story or your own landscape in the sound.
It's beautiful.
Ultimately, Impressionism's big lesson was that feeling and atmosphere and the pure beauty of a sound could be more important than just following the rules. It was a revolution that made music truly free.
See you next time.